This is Jeff from Kiss the Fish. This is one of my, I think this is only my second or third live stream that I've done. But today, if you're joining me, I'm going to be tying up some tiny zebra midge flies. If you can see this here, hard to focus, but I tie these zebra midges in all different sizes. But I usually start around size 18 and then go smaller. I use these typically as a dropper fly. I like to use them underneath like a Griffith's gnat. And if I'm fishing for panfish, I'll fish them maybe like 18 inches down from the actual dry. But today we're going to be tying on a partridge grub SE size 20. I like tying on these. The eye is big enough where when I'm out on the water, I don't have a problem tying on. But I do tie these down beadless, sometimes down to a size 26, even down to a 30. You might be saying, ooh, what the heck are you going to catch on a size 30? I have caught some really nice size rainbows on the 26 and 30s on a beadless zebra midge. Now, there's some difficulty with tying those flies where sometimes when you go to tie them, things like the wire that you go to use. Hey John, nice to see you. Sometimes when you go to tie the wire on small flies, it's just way too much for it. So I've found if I'm getting down to the size 20s, 22s, thanks man, I'll start using crystal flash. If I'm using a bead head, or if I'm using a split shot up the tippet, then I'm not worried about it getting down. But let's get to it. Now I pre-beaded a couple of these size 20s, and I'm going to put one up down here. I'm going to be tying in the Renzetti today. This is the Renzetti Traveler. I have to forgive me, my fingers are a little bit shaky. But let's see. So I'm going to be on a size 20, and I'm going to be using a 1/16 tungsten bead. I'm either going to go back and forth between the silver crystal flash and the 0.015 hairline lead-free. For the thread, I'm using a uni thread. It's 72 denier, it's in black. Seems to work good for this size hook. Let's get started. And just like that, you'll see these small flies have a lot of issues if you've got big fingers. You're trying to tie them. So I'm going to start working my way back. Work back towards the bead. Make a little jam knot. Cut off the excess. You'll see that these flies, they don't take a whole lot of material. And when you're on a small fly like this, when you want to build your taper, you're really not going to need too many layers. I actually got a housefly flying around right now bugging me. But I'm going to build just a little thread down back there. I'm going to go back about 3/4 the way back. I'm going to come back forward. And I'm going to tie in my crystal flash on my next time back. Go back a little more. I'm going to tie it in right now. Back, kind of cover it a little bit, back forward. This is my last time I'm going to go to the back. I'm going to go with the zebra midges. I like to go a little ways down the bend. I don't like going too far down the bend, as you want to make sure that that fish is actually going to hook itself. Alright, so now I'm going to work my way back towards the bead of the hook. Come back, build a little thread down back here. Alright, now it still is looking a little sparse, but I'm going to try tying up like this first. So what I'm worried about, me having real shaky hands, I don't want to lose all these wraps that I've already done. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a real simple half hitch with my finger. So you just do a half hitch with your fingers. You do 1 or 2 fingers. You just place it on the thread. You're going to make a circle, wrap it behind the bead, and then pull down. Boom, half hitch. Having a Renzetti is nice here because you can rest your thread over here and it's out of the way, or you can just dangle it down. I like putting it off to the side. But now that I've done a half hitch, it's not going to unwind on me. So, using the crystal flash, I'm going to flatten it out a little bit. And I'm going to wrap my way towards the front. You have to be a little careful with this though, because with the crystal flash, if you stretch it out too much, what you can end up doing is snapping it really easy. Okay, pull that back in a little bit. Now I'm going to hold the crystal flash off to the side. I'm going to throw one wrap over it. I'm going to throw a second wrap over it. Now I'm going to pull the crystal flash backwards. Tie once, twice. I'm going to cut the crystal flash. Now, when you're finishing off these flies, you got to decide, do you want to use any head cement or anything like a UV resin? And if you do, a fly this small, it's not going to take a lot. So the trick I like to do is I like to put it on the thread before I actually tie it in. So I don't even press down on this. All I'm going to do is just rub it on the top here. Just a little bit. And I'll take my whip finisher. Go 1, 2, 3. Maybe we're going to give it 4 just because there's not a whole lot of thread back there. And pull down. John, what did that say? It said, oh, where did my messages go? You have a favorite UV resin that you like. So, to be honest, I use a pretty cheap UV resin just because I'm kind of cheap. But I don't even know that it has a name brand. It came with 3 different types of UV. There's a thin that I like to put on things like my midges, and there's a thick coat that I use on a lot of my my streamers that I want to build a head with. And there's a flex coat that I haven't really used too much of, so I can't really speak for that. But on Amazon for those 3 UVs, it was only a few dollars. Yeah, that's the one. It was on Amazon. And then my UV torch, I can't recommend this one. It was sold to me as a UV torch, and it's cool, but it's also a flashlight, strobe, and then UV. And I was specifically looking for a UV torch, so for me, it's kind of a pain in the neck that I gotta go through those cycles every time I want to use the torch. But here we go. That only took a couple minutes. We got one down. I gotta tie up a few more now. And since you saw what it looked like having one using the silver flash, the crystal flash, I'm gonna do one just to show what 0.05 wire would look like on a size 20 hook. I gotta be careful. I have made the mistake with small hooks like this before, where they have ended up on the floor and I've found them in my feet. And if you've never done it, it sucks. All right, so we got another hook here. Put it in the vise. And it's a little too deep. There we go. I would love to get a set of midge jaws for this vise, because I do a lot of small fly tying. All right. So for this one, like I said, we're going to use the hairline lead-free wire. So same beginning. Make a jam knot. You go back. And come back forward. And cut out the excess. Here's where it's going to get a little different though, because now I'm just going to take a piece off. I know, it's funny that using the little flies like that, With these size 30s, I can't believe fish actually hit them. I got them as kind of like, oh, that's funny. I wonder if I can tie on those. And the very first time I took them out, I was hitting brook trout left and right and a handful of really nice sized rainbow trout. And that was just, it was simply black thread. Uh, it wasn't even crystal flash I used. It was a small piece of ice dubbing that I wrapped around it for a rib. And I couldn't believe how good it worked. But if it works, I'm not going to argue it. It might not be true to the purest fly tiers, and that's okay. I don't tie flies to sell flies. I tie flies to catch fish. That's just my take on it. Um, if somebody else has a different take on it, that's fair. But so now we're going to take the wire, put it in behind the bead, kind of tuck it in the back of it, and you're going to wrap around. And now this is a thin wire, but it's still almost as big as this hook, which is a size 20. So we're not going to build up too much of a taper. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back to where I would go about a quarter of the way down on the bend, and then I'm going to work my way back to the front. So the tiny taper right here. I'm going to do my half hitch. Once again, take 2 fingers, put it over the line, make a circle, put it behind the bead, and we'll hold in a circle, pull down. Super, super simple. All right, put that over here. Off topic, but any tips for starting your wrap of threads? GSP here, because I saw, whoop, I lost the comments. I saw Kelly Gallup use it all the time. Yeah, I've seen him do that too. Yeah, even waxing it, super slippery to start. Yeah, you know what? I'll show you how to do a jam knot after with a little bigger fly, a little bigger hook. I'll finish this up, then I'll show you a jam knot because that's my favorite way to start up one. All right, so now I'm going to take this wire and you're going to see just how much bigger of a profile it has. So wrapping around, this is definitely going to sink faster, but it's got such a heavy profile. I don't even know if I want to put this one in the box. Yeah, I don't even like it. But still tie it off. So we're going to go around back of the wire once, twice, maybe a third. Why not? On the front of the wire. Now helicopter it off. Build a small little dam there. Now, if you notice, I went 1 wire too many around. If you go too close to the bead, it kind of builds up funny. But this is live, so you get to see what I actually make. Put a little UV resin on there. Take my whip finisher. Go through here. Got behind the bead. Behind the bead. And we are good. That one was a bit heavy. Now we're going to just cure that resin. Oh, that's not my prettiest tie, I'll tell you what. That's all right. Yeah, let me show you how I like to tie a jam knot. I'll use a little bigger hook for this. And if you're just getting into fly tying on Amazon, I like these little collections of hooks for like, I think I got this for like 13 or 14 bucks. You get everything from a size 8 to a size 20. Let's see, what's a bigger one that you can see it on? Hey, VLC is pretty good. So, I'll change up my thread color too so you can really see it. So I can get the hook out. So if you're in the market for a vise too, the Renzetti is a very nice, easy way to adjust over here. All you do is you open these up a little more, close it down till it's just getting a little tension, and you close over here. Okay, so we're going to switch out to red thread just so I can show you that jam knot. This is a cheap red thread. This is a no-name cheapie. These no-name cheapies, though, I like using it from tying things like a mouse fly or streamers or something heavy that, you know, 72 denier ain't gonna cut it. All right, so here's my little threader. Put it into the bobbin. Take the thread, put it into that. Just pull it back through. Piece of cake. Okay. Here's how I do a jam knot to start a fly. So all you're gonna do, you're gonna take your bobbin, you're gonna hold your thread, you're gonna hold it kind of towards the back of the hook, and you're going to start tying. You can tie it. A lot of flies start right behind the eye, but for the purpose of me showing you the jam knot, I'm going to start a little ways back. So you start back here, and you're going to wrap over the line over the thread that you're holding. Wrap it 5-6 times, then wrap forward. That's a jam knot right there, and that's not going to move. All right, so you do that starting on every fly, and you're guaranteed that thread's not going to move. I'll show you one more time. So all you're going to do, you're going to pull backwards towards the bend of the hook with tag end. You're going to start up one wrap around and then wrap over that tag end. It might not be the correct term, but that's the term we're going to use. You're going to do 5 or 6 wraps backwards and about the same amount of wraps forwards. You don't ever want to go crazy with your wraps, because then you start getting these big thread buildups in different parts of the body that you don't want. You want a real natural taper. So if your body's going to be starting back here, that's where you're going to start your taper from. If your body's going to be starting up here, that's where you start your taper from. So when I try to move thread backwards, then it slips off the tag and instead builds up towards the eye. Yeah, what you might have to do is just change your angle. So I don't know if I can show you. Let's see. I'll try to come around the other side so you can see my hands. But if I was holding it, I'm going to be pulling it kind of at an angle like this. So it'll be going this direction, but I'll be pulling it at an angle and downwards. And I think another key thing too is to make sure you got one wrap around before you start going over that tag end. So I guess another thing I didn't even think about, I like to rest my fingers on the jaws of the vise. So like as I'm starting it, it kind of gives me a real good support. So yeah, I go around once and then I start wrapping back over that tag end and back forward. I hope that helps. If it doesn't, you can always do things like wax, even just a little bit of, something on there. I know a lot of people like to use wax when they're doing like a dubbing noodle. I don't particularly do that, and I just like to make a dubbing noodle with my fingers. No problem, man. All right, so we're gonna get that thread, that 72 thread back in here. So if you've never used one of these, They're a super useful tool. It just helps the thread get through the bobbin. I, before having one of these, made one just with a piece of uh, braided line wrapped around with duct tape, and I used that for the first maybe like 6 months of me fly tying. And then I bought this, and it's much simpler. I'll put this thing away. Got hooks flying everywhere. So around here, the rivers have been ridiculous. I got that fly flying around here again. The rivers have been ridiculously high, dangerous to wade in, and just really crappy to fish. I've been doing a little bit more in the ponds, fishing more for bass lately. But how's the fishing been around for you lately? Start this off here. So start the jam knot, take the thread, pull it backwards. Whoop, slip like I do. Anyways, take the thread, pull it backwards, pull around once, and start going over the tag end. See, John, I do it too. I slide every now and again. All right. Oh, that's awesome. I've only caught a couple of browns this year myself. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, the only place I've caught browns around here, we've got the Swift River near me. They're all stocked. There's no wild browns. Got a little lump there. Not too much. I'm gonna go back and make the Crystal Flash Zebra Midge. Ready for a little cooler day. Hit the local kitchen. Sometimes it's nice going to those places because you know you got a pretty good chance. All right, so I'm going to start that Crystal Flash. I'm kind of right about where the tip of the hook bend is. I don't know if I said this before, but when I start it, I don't just try and start just at the tip pointed on the hook. For me, I got shaky fingers and I have difficulty grabbing that wrap. So I put maybe 3/4 of an inch over. I hold the thread as I go around and then pull down and then miss the thread. Let's try that again. All right. And I'm just going to pull it back. See, and then me pulling it back, I could control how much is actually going to be. Also, with these little flies, it's difficult not to hit the point of that hook when you're coming back, because I'm coming back to that bend of that hook. And I'm just going to go maybe 1/3 the way down that bend. Once again, I don't want to cover it so much where fish ain't going to be able to hook itself. I'm going to come back forward. The bead. I'm going to do one little half hitch behind the bead. Just over here. Going to hold on to this Crystal Flash again. And I'm going to wrap. The trick, if you decide to use the Crystal Flash for your ribbing, is to hold it tight, but not tight enough to break it, because unlike wire, this stuff it'll just snap, and it's very heart wrenching when that happens. All right. And you just gotta hold the Crystal Flash with one hand. Do one wrap around, do a second wrap around. And you're going to switch switch hands. Do 1 or 2 wraps in front of the crystal flash. And you're just going to cut the excess. That one piece of crystal flash is good for me to do like at least, I'd say 7 or 8 zebra midges of the size 20 like this. All right, we got 4 people on here right now. Hello to everybody that I haven't said hello to. Put a little bit of resin on the thread. Wrap it in. Just using the wet finisher again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Awesome. And we're just going to torch it. That's it. Another one in. Now these are awesome because I catch fish that are of a decent size with a tiny little hook like that. Whereas I can catch the same size fish with a big giant mott fly too. Oh, that's the one that nobody wants to see. That's the one that everybody says is a cheater fly, but you know what? That cheater fly catches a lot of fish. I also just made I made a video on tying the egg flies. These are hotspot eggs. I like these. Easy to tie. Tie those just with a little tiny piece of egg yarn, a hook, and some red thread. Now I'm going to be in trouble because I just lost the hook. Whoop, there it is. All right. Now this hook the bead fell off of. So you get to see my awesome journey of putting a size 20 onto a bead. So I get it up in my fingers. Sometimes if I'm doing a smaller hook than this, what I'll use is my hackle pliers, and I will hold the hook with the hackle pliers and then put it into the bead. And just get the bead to the eye of the hook and put it in the vise, just like that. And we've done a couple in black. Why don't we do one in red? Yeah, you know what? Yeah, we'll do one in red. We've been doing a bunch of these black zebra midges. I happen to have this red thread sitting here. So let's do it. Put the thread tool into the bobbin. Put the thread through it. We're going to pull. All right. Let's try one with red thread. This is a little heavier thread, so it's going to need less wraps. I'm still going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your jam knot. Cut off the excess. Do you have a beetle pattern? I don't really have a beetle pattern that I've been using, but what I do like is the what the heck is that bug that comes out once every like 12 years? I saw somebody tie one and it was black and orange, and I ended up tying one and bringing it down to the Swift River, and it caught me a very nice rainbow. All right, so this being a thicker thread, I'm just going to do one taper down the body like that, and then I'm going to tie in my crystal flash. The cicada, that's it, that's the one. Yeah, so I actually tied it on a size 6 streamer hook, but I made a foam body with it. Give me 2 seconds, I will go grab it for you. So I'll scratch that. Apparently I won't, because I don't know where it is. It wasn't in my fly box. That's not a good sign. Need to go tie some more. Because out here, we're hearing the cicadas like crazy. Um, and, you know, it's the fly tier's struggle figuring out what fly to tie and what's hatching and how much easier can it be than you actually hear the cicada, you know, with that crazy, whatever kind of sound you want to call it. All right, so now we're going to go forward with this. Make our little half hitch behind the eye. And I love tying with red. Red just really pops. It's going to make a really sweet color. Roll around once, twice. Oop. A little far apart. Tell you what, before I had the Renzetti, I had a regular old bench top, and it was not a rotary vise, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal just doing all these wraps with a non-rotary vise. It's not a big deal, but once you start using a rotary vise with its rotary function, oh my gosh, it's hard to go back. It's just so simple. Cut off the excess. I'm still on that same piece of crystal flash, by the way. I'll put on a little bit of UV resin here. Now, John, I've been using that bottle of thin UV resin. I've been using for. Oh, that's cool, man. Thanks for spending time here. Have a good night. Yeah, that bottle of UV resin I've been using for, it's got to be close to 3 years now, which is crazy. Yeah, it's still there. Thanks, John. Cut that a little bit shorter. Cool. Cure this. There we go. Another one in the box. What have we tied so far tonight? We have tied one, we've tied 4 zebra midges so far. If I can come a little closer. Ooh, that was going down on the table. 4 zebra midges so far. 1 in red, 3 in black, 3 with crystal flash, and 1 with hairline, lead free. I think I'm going to stick with crystal flash because that just ties so good. Tie 1 more up before we're done for tonight. All right, so 1 more. If you're just joining me, I'm going to be using a size 20 partridge hook. It's a size 20 grub SE. All right, and we're going to be using a 1/16 tungsten bead. And we're going to try and get this on the hook. So I hold the bead in my hand, and I find the smaller of the 2 holes. Right. And I want to, if you can get that smaller one, get the point of that hook Oh, the struggle of tying tiny flies. Tell you what, my hands are getting sweaty. I'm gonna try and do this with the hackle pliers. Take the hackle pliers, grab the eye of the hook, take the bead, and just go for it. That was much easier. Good little trick right there. I'm gonna put it back in the vise. All right. Let's tie up another zebra midge. So we're gonna start with a jam knot behind the eye. Go back 1, 2, 3, 4. I come back forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. The whole time you gotta be making sure you are creating a nice taper. You want it to look natural. And you go back about just before the bend of the hook. Come back forward. And do one more time. Go all the way back. Down there. Come back forward. And the tie in. That might be one too many times wrapping back and forth, but see how this taper comes out. I'm going to take my crystal flash, have maybe 3/4 of an inch sticking out. I'm going to grab my tying thread, hold on to it, and do a loose wrap and pull down. And I'm going to pull my crystal flash back, tie it in. Just go forward to keep that taper, tie it back. I'm going to go back to about 1/3 the way down the bend of the hook. And I'm going to go back towards the eye of the hook. Don't do that. Back towards the eye of the hook. Alright. The last thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to make a 1/2 hitch behind the bead. Pull down. Alright. I'm going to put this out of the way for now. I'm going to take the rotary function. I'm going to turn it around. This silver on the red just looks so good. Make sure you get nice even wraps. You also don't want to have an excessive amount of wraps. Okay. Now we're going to pull up that extra thread. Using your left hand, go over the hook. So now we are tying down the crystal flash. We're going to give 2 wraps over it. And we're going to do 1, 2 wraps in front of it. We're going to cut back the crystal. An extra wrap. And I want to put on a little UV resin. I like to do this before I tie in, just because if you put the UV resin on a small fly like this afterwards, you tend to get it kind of all over the place, and I tend to get it in the eye of the hook, even though it's a beaded hook. 2, 3, and set. Take your scissors. Cut. Very nice. I'm going to take the torch, UV torch. I'm going to go around with it. And that's it. Done quite a lot of zebra midges tonight. And for now, I think I'm going to say thank you. Everybody that joined, thank you for watching. If you like this type of thing, please subscribe so you can check out more of my fly fishing, fly tying, and all around fishing videos. Take care, guys.